I posted a quote that was, "Inclusion isn't just inviting someone to sit at your table. It's believing they belong there." And that's what I want to talk about today. Inclusion is not a program that you can create and run. It's a way of being. But I think in order to really understand what true inclusion means, we have to first ask ourselves why we believe that they truly belong at the table with us. So what is it that gives a person value? For me personally, one of my most favorite educational philosophers who's influenced me a great deal is Charlotte Mason. She was an educational philosopher during World War I, and she was greatly influenced by what she saw happening around her in Germany, especially with regards to their education at that time. The main problem she saw was that Germany's education at that time was strictly utilitarian, basically, of what good can my mind or body be to the state. This is also how it came to be during World War II, with children with disabilities, both mental and physical, being sent to camps and exterminated because they were seen as not having value physically or mentally to the state. So in response to that, Charlotte Mason wrote her 20th principle. She has 20 principles. This was the last one. And I'm going to read my summary that I created in modern English because I think it makes it a little bit easier to understand. Although much attention is paid to the development of a child's body and mind, we do not neglect the feeding of a child's soul, that part that is not the mind and not the body, because it is this that gives a person value, not how talented they are physically or mentally. In psychology, a ton has been written about the part of the person that is not the body and not the mind. We call this the mind-body problem. And it's really complicated. But I would prefer not to think about it scientifically, but to think, okay, how do we communicate these ideas across time and space and cultures? And one of the things that recurs over and over and over again throughout our history and different cultures is the concept of body, mind, and soul. So I would prefer to accept that no matter how we conceptualize people, from a scientific or religious sense or not, that we often choose to communicate about ourselves as being body, mind, and soul. Spirit, I don't care what wording you use, but the part that's not your body, not your mind. I recently came across a podcast whose title is very descriptive of this explanation of inclusion. It's called B'Tselem Elohim, Disability and Inclusion Podcast. So B'Tselem Elohim is a Hebrew term that means in the image of God. So in essence, it's an acknowledgement of the sacred value that exists in each person. And that sacred value is what truly allows us to be included. It's believing that what gives you your value is the part of you that is not your body and not your mind. So regardless of what our beliefs are or not, either way, there is a certain sacredness to honoring the individuality of each person and recognizing that they all have value. These concepts are very important to me and in our homeschool, because not only do my children have a number of disabilities as well as myself, but they're also Jewish, living at a time with the highest rate of anti-Semitism in recorded history of the United States. And yes, they have seen multiple instances of anti-Semitism at this point. And they have, at times, been been on the receiving end of hate over their disabilities. Like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream too. It turns out it's the same dream he had. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. We've come a long way, but we haven't made it to the mountaintop yet. Not until we fight against all hatred. And that starts with true inclusion. By valuing each individual life, not based on what they can do physically or what they can do mentally, but because they are a person. And as a person, they have value from that part of them that is uniquely them and not their body and not their mind. I'll be speaking about this topic in North Carolina later this summer, homeschooling through hate. And I have so many thoughts on what we can do when we experience hate within our communities, and how we can support our kids through that process with how we homeschool.